All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Amp Up Your Event Marketing and Sponsorship. We're thrilled you could join us today. Before we get started, I just wanted to offer a couple of quick housekeeping items. First, we are recording today's webinar. If you have colleagues that weren't able to make it, or if you'd like to go back and review anything we cover, we'll be sending out a link afterwards for you to be able to view the recording as well as download the slides. And the second is please use the Q&A button in the Zoom control panel to submit your questions. We'll try and get to as many of them as possible today. All right. And with that, a very good afternoon for you East Coasters and Midwesterners, and good morning to those of you just starting your day out west. We're thrilled that you could join us today. My name is Joshua Meyer. I'm the marketing director at BidPal. Before this role, I spent 8 years at a larger national nonprofit focused on event fundraising. My pleasure to introduce our co-host today, Ian Loth, of the VP of Marketing at Winspire. Ian, would you like to provide a brief introduction for those of us joining us?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Josh. It's a pleasure to be here. As Josh introduced me, I'm the VP of Marketing here at Winspire. I've been working on event fundraising and event marketing for the last 7 years, and I'd love to be able to help nonprofits with your event fundraising goals.
Fantastic. Both Ian and I are really incredibly passionate about marketing and sponsorships, so much so that we've really, it's become the focus of our careers, and we're very excited to dive into these topics with you today and further explore them. But before we do, we wanted to take a quick moment to share a little bit more about BidPal and Winspire. And when we say quick, we mean really 2 short slides here. For those of you that are not familiar with BidPal, BidPal offers a broad variety of event fundraising tools, from our mobile bidding, online auctions, event management software, online ticketing, and text-to-give online donation platform. Over the past 9 years, we've helped our clients raise over $1 billion for their missions, engage over 1 million donors, and helped automate over 8,300 events throughout a robust software platform. Ian, can you tell us a little bit more about Winspire?
Absolutely, and thanks for that. I must say, BidPal does a great service. It's always a pleasure working with Josh over at BidPal. We all share the same mission, and that's to help you guys with your fundraising events and ultimately raise money. So what we do is we provide no-risk travel packages, consignment travel that you can use in your live and silent auction, and as raffle prizes. They're no risk. You don't have to pay anything to use them or promote them for your event, and you only purchase them after the event and only if they raised money. It's a great fundraising tool that thousands of nonprofits use across the country each year. So far, we've raised over $47 million, and we've been in over 40,200 events. That's in the United States and Canada, and we've serviced over 80,000 winning bidders, serving them all over the globe. Or sending them all over the globe. So we love what we do, and we love to be able to help you guys fundraise.
Fantastic. Well, we love working with Winspire, which is why we were so excited to be able to put this webinar on together. So before we get started here, we wanted to take a quick poll. So let's see if I can make this work. We're going to, you should see on your screens in the Zoom control panel a poll. And what we want to do is ask, where could your organizing use the most assistance with your event? Is it marketing? Is it sponsorships? Is it both? So we'll let you take a minute here and respond to the poll. All right. It looks like there's a strong leader here with about 64% is both, followed by sponsorship and marketing. The good news here is that we're going to cover it all today. So for those of you that are looking for both, we're absolutely going to do that. We're going to focus on sponsorships as well as marketing. I'm just going to go ahead and end that poll there. Thanks to everyone who participated. All right. And so then let's hop in to our agenda. Today we're going to cover, as we mentioned, sponsorship ideas that we love, event marketing tips that we would encourage you to try. We're also going to try and make sure that we leave time at the end to do any questions you may have. It looks like we're seeing a ton of questions come into the question Q&A panel already. If we don't get your question answered today, we'll make sure to follow up afterwards. But please do. We want to try and make this as interactive as possible. So use that Q&A panel to submit your questions. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in with sponsorship ideas we love, and we think you'll love them too. I'm going to hand it over to Ian to cover the first couple of ideas.
Thanks a lot, Josh. So before we start talking about sponsorships, one thing that I always like to open these webinars with is a little bit of theory, almost fundraising theory, philosophy, right? And that first thing is the thing that we love to preach here at Winspire, and that is thinking like a business. It's actually, you need to stop thinking like a charity and start thinking like a business. Some of you may agree with me out there, some of you may not, but charities on the whole thinks, in terms of donations, right? And donations is all about please, 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 give me. Whereas businesses really start thinking in terms of profit, and profit is such a key part here. And in this case, when you talk about fundraising, the money that you're able to raise, otherwise known as your bottom line, right? After everything shakes out, after your event is done and over with, you have the money that you raised, and then how much you spent on the event. That is your profit. So I want you guys out there, guys and gals, right, to really think about your events and fundraising as 100% profit. I want you to be obsessed with profit, like you're some sort of capitalist pig almost, right? Because this is what you're going to have to do to really squeeze out every single dollar out of your event. In order to do that, you want to think in terms of profit equals revenue minus expenses, right? You have to make sure that every aspect of your agenda has a focus on fundraising, right? AKA profit. And in order to increase your profit, you have to increase your revenue through your live auction, silent auction, paddle raise, through various games, those things that bring money in, right? Ticket sales, and decrease your expenses. And we'll talk about share a list of those here in just a second. But sponsorships, especially, is which we're going to talk about here today, is one of the best ways that you can go out and really reduce the amount of expenses that you have for the event, because you have sponsors who are actually going to cover some of the things that you have to spend money on in order to run the event. And what happens when you decrease the amount of expenses? Naturally, that's going to reduce more out of your revenue that you bring in during the event and increase your profit. So sponsorships are a key part, and it's one of the things that's often kind of not talked about or not hailed as much during the event day, but requires a lot of legwork before the event, right? And can have huge payoff during the event, but it doesn't necessarily get its time in the limelight. But it's really important to really focus on. So, and you get that by getting things underwritten. So let's go and move on to the next slide here. And one thing I like to focus on, right, are being aware of the expenses that don't generate you revenue, right? I'm a huge advocate of investing things that do generate a return, but I'm not saying you can't invest in your flowers, your linens, your food. But guys and gals, some things bring event day return and some things don't. Right? So before we go and get sponsorships to underwrite the cost of these things, your first task is going to be to see how much you can reduce these expenses. Because it can be really hard for those people who are during the paddle raise, especially if they know their first $100 is going to go towards that beautiful vase or centerpiece that's on the table. I've heard of events that spend $20,000 on a band but don't have a professional benefit auctioneer, and that's really not good planning, because while a band may help you sell tickets, who's going to help you raise the money when those people get there, right? So development directors, hopefully there's a lot of development directors out there, maybe executive directors. You have to be really willing to look at really look at your budget and slide things around to make sure you're going to reach your goal on event day. So look at this list of things. Think about how much money each of these things is not going to make you, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't have a band or you shouldn't have flowers, but see if you can save a couple $100 here, $1,500 on the band, and like for food, right? Eliminate a course, maybe go from beef to chicken. That's going to reduce your expenses by several $100s, which is going to show up on your profit at the end of the day, right? So I'm not trying to say you should eliminate these things, but if you can save just a few $100 on each of them, it's going to help you reach your goals. Now, if your chairs refuse to skimp on some of these things, one of the biggest ones is decorations, right? If they absolutely have to have them, that is where you can really go out and motivate them by telling them they have to go get sponsors for it, right? You want your undersea theme to feel like it's actually underwater, right? Go find a sponsor who is as passionate about the decorations and about the party as your decoration chair, and have them underwrite the cost of that. Then you don't even have to worry about it. It's out of your sight, out of your mind. Now let's look at the things that you can underwrite that actually start generating return. Okay, these 5 things are huge here. There's actually one missing, I don't see on there, and that's alcohol, right? But sound system is huge. You absolutely need to have your MC, the speakers, and most importantly, your auctioneer heard throughout the auditorium. And one of the biggest follies I've heard time and time again from auctioneers, especially who run these huge events and raise millions of dollars each year, is a bad sound system. That will absolutely make your event fall flat. You need to have someone who's dedicated to the sound system, a technician who's there during the event, who knows what to do if something goes wrong, and you need to test it, right? Test the heck out of it. Auctioneer, that's another thing that I've kind of mentioned so far here. They are going to be the ones who are going to help you bring the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. So remember, previously I was talking about saving money on those other items, right? Your flowers, your food, those things. If you can save $1,500 to $2,000, then that money should be going to, and you haven't considered hiring an auctioneer, that is where that money should go to. Because if you can save money and then hire somebody who's going to actually bring in more revenue, that is what's going to really help you bring in those dollars. Also on here, auction packages. That's I'm not doing this as a plug, just in terms of auction items for your live auction. You need to have big items that wow the crowd. And while you should be going out there and getting as much of it as you can donated, there's plenty of consignment travel companies. We are one of them, Winspire is, but you should absolutely try to go out there and get the cost of maybe your consignment travel package is underwritten, but also investing in those items so that people have big wow items to spend money on, because they're not going to do it otherwise. In a perfect world, people are just going to raise their hand during the fund a need and give $5,000–6,000, but that's simply not the case. People need to see something that they want in the live auction in order for them to actually spend that money. Also, bidding technology. Oh, I do see bar on there. That bar/alcohol, right? Alcohol is what gets people loose. It's what gets people spending money. It's just a fact, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Alcohol definitely loosens up a room. It's not a mandatory thing, but it definitely helps people, open their wallets a little more. And then finally, bidding technology. BidPal, obviously a great resource for this, but it's going to help you in so many ways in terms of your return, right? It's going to help capture money more easily. It's going to help you analyze those bids after the event, and down the road make educated decisions on what you should be doing for following events. And I'm sure Josh has a lot more that he can talk to there. But these are definitely some of the biggest things that you want to focus on in terms of investment, right? Invest in ROI. You'll get a return on investment in these things versus the other list.
Yeah, and I would just add here, Ian, I think this is a great list. One of the things that we often see is these gold sponsors and silver sponsors and bronze sponsors, and that's great. I think just being able to get these pure cash donations for your event it's huge and sort of helps the event and obviously the overall mission of the organization. But you can sort of tip it on its head a little bit, and you can find the sound system. Sponsor, tonight's sound provided by, whoever it may be. The bar tonight, this evening is provided by, the bidding technology is provided by. So you can sort of use sort of the traditional sponsorship model and sort of tip it in its head a little bit to sort of help underwrite some of these expenses. All great ideas, Ian. Thank you.
That's a great point. Yeah, a quote that I always like to say too, right, is an investment that helps you exceed your goals doesn't cost you anything, right? I'm going to repeat that. An investment that helps you exceed your goals doesn't cost you anything, because you're already there. You're already past your goals, and that's kind of the crux of this. That's what we're really getting at. So great point in terms of recognizing sponsors there, Josh. I totally agree.
Yeah, fantastic. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're still going to talk about sponsors, but we're going to take it from sort of a unique way to get sponsors involved with your fund a need. Fund a need sponsors is an idea that actually came from one of our auctioneer partners, Ben Farrell of Custom Benefit Auctions. Most fundraising events here include a fund a need, which sometimes is also referred to as an appeal or a raise the paddle. With this idea, we have some fun new ways to incorporate sponsors in this giving opportunity. But before we talk about sponsorship opportunities with the Fund a Need, I wanted to make a quick comment, or maybe even a plug here per se, on the timing of the Fund a Need. Many organizations wait until the end to conduct that Fund a Need, which is a mistake we've seen, as a portion of your guests usually have typically left if you wait to the end of the night to do your Fund a Need. Additionally, if you're including sponsors in your Fund a Need, putting the appeal at the end of the night minimizes their exposure. So don't be bashful on this one. Put the Fund a Need towards the middle or top of the program. You'll maximize the audience's attention and your fundraising potential. So let's talk a little bit here more about incorporating sponsors in the Fund a Need. We have sort of 4 unique ideas here on ways to get sponsors incorporated into your appeal. Now, the first here is what we call underwriting a leadership gift. That's having a large gift to kick off the appeal. It allows the sponsor a great deal of exposure. It's also a great way to gain momentum with your Fund a Need and see if anyone in the crowd will match the leadership gift. Right? So for example, you could start your appeal by saying, US Bank is donating $10,000 tonight. Is there anyone in the crowd who can match them? Or perhaps do we have 2 gifts of $5,000? Now, having a professional benefit auctioneer is a great use here. They're gonna know this well, but having a volunteer also works as well. Using this leadership gift provides the sponsor with a ton of exposure, right? They're kicking off the appeal, and it really makes them look like they're a hero. The amount of your leadership gift should be based on your overall goals. So if 10,000 is too high, as is the example we just shared, find a number that works for your budget and your goals for the evening. Now, the second tip here is having sponsors underwrite a bonus match. As you're going through your appeal, see if you can find a sponsor to make a bonus match. This may entice donors who give at a higher level to make a second gift. So in this example, we'll say US Bank will make another $10,000 gift. So this is later on in the appeal, if we can raise another $10,000, right? Do we have another 20 individuals who are willing to make $500 gifts? Obviously, the amounts will vary based on your goals, but again, this is another way to incorporate sponsors into that Fund a Need and really sort of highlight their involvement in your organization. Now, similar to the bonus match, our third tip here is destination match, right? And these are similar. This is best saved towards the end of the appeal and works incredibly well if you're using mobile bidding or text-to-gift platform to collect donations during your appeal. The destination match allows your sponsors to make one final match. Right? So the example here will say, we are at $15,000. You've already raised $15,000 through your appeal. If we can hit $20,000, US Bank or whoever the sponsor may be will add another $5,000, making our total amount raised tonight $25,000 to support the organization's mission. Right? So if you're using scoreboard technology with your mobile bidding or text to give, you'll be able to see in real time how much more is needed to hit that match, right? Making it really easy to know when you hit your goal. And it also sort of helps apply a little bit of peer pressure, right? Because everyone in that ballroom wants you to hit your goal. And so making sure that you hit it is going to be sort of paramount at that moment so that you are eligible to receive that destination match. Now, our fourth and final tip here with Fund a Need is involving sponsors is the Fund a Need game of chance. Right? And this opportunity involves a sponsor underwriting a prize, right? And the idea here is that allowing anyone who makes a donation over a predefined amount to be entered into a game of chance, or sometimes otherwise known as a raffle, to win a fantastic prize provided by the sponsor. It's a great tool to sort of introduce in the middle of your appeal, as it gives those who may be sitting the appeal out a reason to engage, right? Because they may have the chance to win that prize. Again, if you're using mobile bidding or text to give, generating a list of those who made a donation is easy and will allow you to to run that game of chance very quickly once the appeal has wrapped up. So four sort of unique ways to involve sponsors in Fund a Need. We actually have one more, which is a fifth, and that's the Fund a Need finale. And this sponsorship opportunity works best if you're using, again, mobile bidding or text to give at your event, because you're going to use that scoreboard technology. Right? So simply put, this idea is a fun way to end your Fund a Need. The name of the last person to make a gift that shows up on the scoreboard during your appeal wins a prize, right? So you'll want to wait to announce this game until later in the appeal, after the majority of the donations have been made. And then this gives your attendees an opportunity to make a second or subsequent gift that they probably wouldn't have made otherwise, right? So thus increasing your overall revenue. There's often times where we're sort of asked, what makes a good prize, right? So if you have a sponsor that's already donating an item to your auction, and that may be a way to solicit a prize or use a prize that's already sort of been donated. Another opportunity, right, is using consignment, like a Winspire package, right? You could have a sponsor underwrite the cost of a Winspire package, and that could be the Fund a Need finale prize. So there's all sorts of ways to incorporate that prize or to get that prize, and it's just a really great way to get people to make a second gift and really top off your fundraising for the night. All right, I'm going to hand it back over to Ian here, talking about merchandising.
So I'm actually going to call it audible. I want to come back to this slide because this is more, I just realized this relates more to marketing the event. So we're going to come back to this slide, but let's keep going because we're talking about sponsors. And like you just mentioned, donor-sponsored travel. We've mentioned this a couple of times already. I'm just going to touch on it very briefly, but it's something that we've seen be very successful, especially for recognizing donors, right? If you can go out and get a donor to underwrite the cost of a $3,500 consignment travel package, then during the live auction, when the auctioneer gets up there, then they can get up and say, ladies and gentlemen, the following package was donated by Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They can point to them right over here onto the left side of the stage. Everyone can clap, and then it's off to the races. Then they can start bidding. The great part about consignment travel, the reason it's so useful in this case, right, is because it's open-ended, that people can travel whenever. They have a full-service booking fee, and it can be sold multiple times. Let's go to the next slide. The biggest piece here, right, is that any one of these packages you can sell multiple times. You can get a conditional bidder. You can say, hey, a conditional sponsor. If we end up selling 2 or 3 of these, would you be willing to underwrite the cost of that? Same with other aspects of the event. So selling multiples is huge. You can sell to groups, group tables. Just because it's a 2-person experience doesn't mean you can't sell it 4 times to a group of people all sitting at a table and turn it into an 8-person experience, right? The idea here is the more times you can sell it, the more money you're going to make. I want to do just a quick situational example here, right? If you have a $3,000 package, right, and you get one bidder to max out at $6,000, you've raised $3,000 on that package. Now, what happens if your bidding is going up? You still have 3 or 4 bidders in the room at $5,000. If you stop and you stop the bidding at $5,000 instead of maxing out at 1 bidder at $6,000, and you say, I'm going to sell it to all 3 of you. Let's just say it's 3 people. 3 people for $5,000. That's $2,000 you've raised on each package. You've sold it 3 times. Now you've raised $6,000. That's twice as much as you would have raised if you would have sold to that 1 bidder for $6,000, right? That is a key element to using consignment travel, no-risk travel strategically, is being able to sell it multiple times. You're going to end up raising a lot more money on an individual package. So that's selling multiples.
Fantastic. So let's segue here into marketing tips to try.
And this is where I'd love to interject with that last slide, because event marketing is such a big part. And before we get back there, event marketing is such a huge part of running your event, obviously, right? It's how you're going to get people selling tickets, how you get people with butts in the seats, and people excited about coming and have fun, right? So much of these events is about people coming and doing a social event and having a blast, okay? So, but what I want you to first think about this as is a fundraiser, not a party, right? This is primarily a fundraiser that we're focusing on profit. A good kind of way to mentally structure this is one thing we like to talk about is think about it as a merchandise store, one night only storefront, we call it, right? So it's actually kind of funny because if you were to approach any business person and ask them, propose this idea, they would think you're crazy, right? Imagine you're opening a store where you're going to only open it for one night, right? You pack the shelves with cool items and everything must go because you're going to shutter the doors at the end of the night and you're only going to open one other time, and that's going to be after a full calendar year. If you approach any business person, they would think you're crazy, but that's actually what you're tasked with doing. It may not necessarily be one night, especially if you have the help of bidding technology like BidPal. You can do pre-selling and post-selling after the event, but still you're trying to cram an entire year's worth of revenue into one night or maybe a couple weeks, which is absolutely insane. So think about how much, if you were to run this as a business, right, your event as a business, think about how much pre-promotion you would do if you knew that this one store was just going to be open on one night, right? They would have tons of promotion. They would be all over Facebook. They would have flyers all over the community. They would just be doing so much promotion to try to get people to come and actually spend money at that store. And that's what you have to do. So that's why marketing is such a huge part of getting people into those seats and excited about spending. So let's actually go to the next slide here about pre-promoting, or conditioning your bidders rather. Cool. Oh, previewing. I missed the slide. I think this one's yours, Josh.
Yeah, so I'll cover this one. So previewing your event, I mean, this sort of dovetails into the merchandising, right? So it's marketing your auction prior to the event is just instrumental in making sure your event is, the auction is successful, right? It is key to get your auction items in front of your donors before the event so that they know what will be up for bid and can budget accordingly, right? So marketing that auction is so instrumental, right? It's so key. This is particularly applicable to larger packages such as travel or unique experiences. Right? With event management and auction software, showcasing your auction packages before your event is now easier than ever as they can be displayed online. If donors see a Facebook post or receive an email inviting them to preview your auction items before the event, they can then discuss the packages they really want to try and win prior to the event and be ready to bid on them when the time comes. Now, oftentimes we'll see, well, we're getting auction items all the way, to the day of the event. No problem. You can keep adding those auction items all the way, to the very last second, but you'll still want to start the promotion much earlier, right? It's a couple of weeks prior to the event. Right? This will eliminate the typical conversations that occur with bidders that when they're blindsided, when they're seeing the auction items for the very first time the night of your event. And it increases the chances that they'll place a bid, right? So that they can figure out, they can look at their own personal budget and see how much they can spend or how much they're able to donate when they purchase auction items. There's also a best practice to start your silent auction items online prior to your event. We've seen clients raise several $1,000s before the actual event by allowing online bidding, right? And that's part of that whole pre-selling the auction item, or previewing your auction items. I'm getting ahead of myself. Ian's now going to cover sort of pre-selling auction items.
Yeah, and that was all such a great point, Josh. And I just kind of want to paint that picture again of that situation, right? In terms of previewing the auction items, conditioning your bidders to expect travel, expect these items. It's such a key point, right? Versus, getting there, having a heated discussion at the table. Oh, I want to go, honey. Well, I don't know if I want to spend that much money on this package. We're going to go to this, place later in the year. It's not a very ideal place to be having that conversation in front of your friends at the event, right? That's why it's so important to get all of your auction items in front of people so they know what to expect. Mr. and Mrs. Jones will be sitting there though. I just got this email from, about the event coming up in a couple weeks. Oh my gosh, they have a Napa trip. We haven't been to Napa yet, honey. Let's totally go. That conversation is going to be very impactful so that by the time they're walking through the door, that buying unit, that couple, right? Because you always want to think about your audience in terms of buying units, which are usually a husband and a wife that are buying together, right? They are on the same page then by the time they walk in the door and they're ready to spend money together. And then they're going to be a lot more fierce about getting into that bidding war and trying to win that package. So that is so crucial. I just kind of want to reiterate that. Second, we have pre-selling auction items. This is crucial as well, especially for getting that bidding going, right? And what I mean by pre-selling is actually going out and or you should know rather, your guest list pretty well. You should be pretty familiar with most of the people on there, especially your VIP donors, the people who are going to actually come and spend money. If you want to kind of break it up into audience tiers, typically about 15% of your guest list are going to be the people who are going to be participating in the live auction, actually spending more than a few $1,000s on these luxury items, right? There's another probably 20 to 30% that are going to partake in the silent auction and maybe dabble in the live auction, and then the rest are kind of guests and other participants who may or may not participate. But what you want to focus on, especially with the live auction, is that 15% of your guest list that you know is going to come and spend money. You should be getting in touch with each and every one of them and finding out where they want to go, what do they want to buy, and figure out what their tastes are, what they are yearning to do, because then you can start to place the auction items into the auction that they're going to be really interested in. And in many cases, you should be getting a kind of a verbal confirmation that they're going to come and actually bid on these things, right? That's not a strange conversation. It doesn't have to be a strange conversation. You can absolutely say, look, we have this live auction coming up. We want you to partake in it. Where do you want to go? What is on your bucket list? And as you ask more people in that 15% of your guest list, you'll start to see things start to overlap. And that's where it makes it easier to pick which packages you're going to actually put in your auction, so you can start to create that bidding war. Because then you're guaranteed, if you are pre-selling all your live auction items, you get at least one person to commit to throw down one bid. Then you're guaranteed not to have an auction item that you're throwing out there, hey, who wants to go to Kennedy Space Center in Florida? Oh, nobody really has children or grandchildren that they are interested in space. It falls flat, right? Actually, that's one of our more successful packages. But the point here is that if you're pre-selling, then you know that that's not going to happen, and you're going to be a lot more successful. You're going to get a lot more bids, and ultimately probably sell a lot more packages, sell more multiples, and raise more money if you have those. You've done your research, you've contacted your donors, and you've done your pre-selling.
No, fantastic. I can't reiterate enough, right? Like we've seen a lot of clients, reach out to their board members and get the board members, talking to the guests that they're inviting and really just trying to, suss out as part of the planning process, what items should we have in the auction. And some of them, to the extent that you can, like tailor that auction to your guests' desires.
It's totally, and it's a great excuse to get in touch with your donors, right? I mean, so much of donor development, right, and donor relationships is finding excuses to get in touch with them, not always to just say, hey, can you donate, right? It's just to take them out to lunch, get to know them better. This is a great excuse to get to know them better and what their interests are, and just say, hey, we are here for you. We want to, make you happy. We want to keep you involved, and we want to, where do you want to go? It's not a direct appeal where you're asking them for money, but you are implying that, hey, we want you to come to this event and spend money and have fun doing it, and that is so crucial.
Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit more about sort of marketing and using social media, Ian.
Great. So social media obviously is huge, and if you guys aren't on social media, you should be. It is free. Let me repeat that. Social media is free to use and promote. It is a marketer's dream, especially in terms of marketing events, right? It costs you absolutely nothing. Go create an event page on Facebook. And Facebook, I'm just going to kind of talk about, because it is kind of the best place. It's where the most people have profiles. You should also be on Twitter and Instagram and those sorts of things for promoting your event. But Facebook is a great central hub where you can go and create an event page just like this. And here's an example of BidPal's Raise conference coming up in Washington, D.C. on September 26th, which we're going to be at. Very excited about. Hopefully there's some people here on the webinar who are also going to join us. But this is an example of an event page. I think this is a mobile version, but it costs you nothing to go create that, and then it's a great place, a great hub for you to go make posts about your event as it's leading up to it. You can make announcements like what the band you got, right? What you're going to be serving for dinner, special guests, auction items. This is the best place for you to announce all your live auction items and get people to start getting excited about it. Here's a great example of one of our nonprofits that we work with, the Young Actors Theater. They made this post about Hamilton, right? The fact that they're going to be putting Hamilton in their experience. Look at how many likes it has down there at the bottom, 52. right? That gets a lot of traction. People are talking about it. People are excited about it. And if you can send out correspondence, email correspondence, and get people to come and like your event page, then they're going to start following the various things that get posted on there. Let's go, and I see here you have listed Facebook Live events. Those are also great. So did you want to say something about Facebook events there, Josh?
No, I mean, I just think that Facebook is just a great, as you mentioned, it's a free medium to get people engaged. We are starting to see Facebook Live posts with our clients, and that can be a quick, 2-minute conversation with either sort of a speaker that's going to be attending the night, or a board member, or someone who's going to be benefiting from the funds that you're raising at your event, right? So put them on Facebook Live, and that is just a great engagement tool. And then Facebook will archive that video footage so you can use that in future posts as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let me say one other thing there, Josh, too, because you just reminded me of something. The fact is, every single one of you out there that's on this webinar, you have a smartphone in your pocket, right? That is a content making machine. What has happened over the last 5 years since smartphones really came on the scene, right, is a democratization of content. Anybody can create content. And it doesn't have to be this professional grade, incredible video. You can snap a quick 30-second video using your phone and post it to an event page just to give people a quick update. Hey, we're looking forward to having everyone, come and support us. You can tie it to your cause. You can have, videos of you actually participating in your cause and remind people about the event that's coming up and how important it is. The biggest thing, though, is you don't want to be too over the top, too annoying, posting too many times, but it is very easy, and you should be doing it, posting content to your Facebook pages.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's switch gears a little bit here. We'll talk about radio promotions. Another promotion we've seen work well recently is reaching out to your local radio station and setting up a radio swap promotion. This works where you reach out to the radio, and the radio station will promote your event on air in exchange for their attendance at your event. And so this can be providing them a table or a corporate sponsorship, or we've even seen some radio stations provide their on-air talent to MC or be the live auctioneer at the event. So this is, I think, sometimes we forget in this digital age that radio is still live and well. So this is a great opportunity to get in touch with your local radio station and see if there's an opportunity to partner, right? So this almost dovetails back into some of the sponsorship items that we were talking as well, but we felt this fit better in the marketing section. Anything to add there, Ian?
What?
I said anything to add there, Ian?
No, I mean, I totally agree that radio, there's still plenty of people that are out there, especially if you're trying to get reach, right? A big part of marketing that can be difficult is getting that reach out there, especially if you're trying to get people that aren't on your typical donor list to come and start supporting your cause. Charity galas may not be the best place to recruit brand new donors, but it is good for people to know that your event is happening and it's in the community, and make your presence known, because what you're trying to reach are those upper echelons of society, right? That 15% of society that's going to come and actually spend money. And if they keep hearing about this event and they know so-and-so is going to it, and maybe they had an invite, but they're not sure, that sometimes can be the kicker to actually get them to come, participate, and actually donate money. Yeah,
fantastic. So the next tip here is Google Grants, right? If you're not familiar with Google Grants, I'd highly encourage you to explore this program. Google Grants approves nonprofits with $10,000 in free advertising a month, right? You have to get approved, so there is an application process. But it's perfect for events, but it's also great for general fundraising. It's a great way to spread your mission beyond traditional online marketing. Essentially what this offers is, you've all seen those ads when you do a Google search. It gives your organization free ads on Google searches. Right? Getting up and running does require some basic investment, the application process. as well as learning how pay-per-click advertising works. But Google has a lot of guides and tutorials to make that really easy. And once you have things set up and refined, your advertising program, Google Grants really becomes a set it and forget it marketing tool that can help you bring in new donors and sort of new event attendees to your cause. So it's worth looking into if you're not already taking advantage of the Google Grant program. I would highly recommend it. It is a great opportunity and a great sort of corporate citizenship program that Google offers.
Absolutely. This is huge. It can be a little daunting and a little scary, trying to approach this, but it is absolutely worth it. We actually, for those of you who are familiar, we have, I do an Events with Benefits podcast, and we have a great episode actually coming out next Wednesday. Cameron Ripley, who does Google Grants for nonprofits, has a great account. It's about a 40-minute episode where we talk all about how to approach Google Grants and the best way to apply for it, and then how to use it. Because one of the biggest hurdles is not actually getting the grant. The grant can be easy. The hardest part is actually knowing how to use the AdWords, and which can be, it takes a lot of analytics and know-how to actually apply that $1,000 to get the kind of traffic that you want. They'll actually come and donate. So definitely look out for that. I'll put a link to our podcast in the chat right now, but look out for that next Monday. Excuse me. Cameron Ripley will be releasing that on the 28th.
Fantastic. All right, so we focused a lot on online tools and radio. We're going to switch gears a bit here and take a look at good old word of mouth advertising via the use of table captains or board captains to promote your event. This tactic tasks your key volunteers or board members to captain a table, or in other words, they become responsible for filling the remaining 9 seats at their table of 10. This model is very familiar to the peer-to-peer fundraising model you often see with run, walk, ride events, where a team captain is responsible for recruiting members to their 5K team. But instead of running a race, right, your table captain is recruiting people to join him or her to attend your event. This often works well if you provide your table captains with an incentive to fill their table, which could be a small incentive, such as if they fill their table, then they'll get a slightly better, their table will be in a slightly better position in the ballroom. Or there could be, you could create some sort of raffle or game of chance or contest for those table captains that recruit the most guests, get X amount of raffle tickets, or if they complete their table, they get X amount of entries into the raffle. Again, you can potentially have a sponsor underwrite that contest. So that's another opportunity to involve sponsorship. Another variation of this tactic is having corporate sponsors invite their employees to recruit additional guests. Right? Usually, with a corporate sponsorship, they get X a number of tickets for your event. Well, why don't you you can try and create a competition for the corporate sponsors to get their employees to recruit additional guests to the event, and then create a competition either amongst those employees or a competition amongst all of your corporate sponsors to see who can get the most guests to the event. So a couple of different ways. Again, this sort of stems from that peer-to-peer model and really ties it nicely into sort of a more traditional gala or event setting. All right. I'm going to go back to online here, Ian, a little bit and talk about emailing.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, email is such a big part of any marketing department these days, but especially for you. You have your donor database, you have your attendee list, and so hopefully you're using it to, first of all, drive ticket sales. That's first and foremost. You're trying to let people know about the event coming up and remind them that tickets go on sale. These are also great opportunities for showing off your auction items, having a little sneak peek, especially if you have a auction preview page with that BidPal, such as BidPal. What do you call it? Is there a kind of a specific name that you have for your auction preview or pre-selling, pre-bidding?
Pre-bid. With BidPal, we just call it auction preview. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, just kind of a storefront like that so people can go see what auction items are going to be there. You want to have that right along with your selling tickets, right? Another big piece, and when you're sending these emails, right? Here's an example that you'll see on your screen of one that was created in Constant Contact. So the first thing you're going to want to have when you before you start sending emails is an email service provider, an ESP. The last thing you want to be doing, and I still see this today, and it drives me bananas, is nonprofits who BCC their entire contact book or donor database, and so it's just kind of it's like a hand typed email, and then they BCC everyone. That is a big no-no. You want to use an email service provider like Constant Contact. MailChimp is another one. I know Emma is another really good one. Those would probably be the three that I recommend. They give you great templates that you can work with that'll show up really well on people's phones and in their desktop email clients. And you can put imagery in. You put your nonprofit logo. You can put stuff from your event. And you can put pictures from your cause, as well as images from your auction items. So definitely using email through an email service provider is crucial. I know Constant Contact actually has some deals for nonprofits that they do, and I think Emma does as well. That'll actually make it a little cheaper. And MailChimp even does. I think it's free up to like 2,000 contacts. So I know many nonprofits out there don't have more than, especially when you're talking about your attendee list, more than 2,000, but they have some great templates in there as well. So check those out if you're not using one of those. And then also you want to segment your audience, right? So you'll have a list of people that you want to attend your event, right? You send out your first email. Hey, here's buy tickets. Here's the upcoming event, and then people start to buy tickets, right? That doesn't mean you shouldn't send more emails to people who bought tickets. You should start segmenting them. So you have your list of people who bought tickets and people who haven't. When you send your next email, you should send an email to people who bought tickets that says, thank you so much for buying tickets. We're excited to have you at the event. Here's some of the auction items we're going to be presenting. People who haven't bought tickets, you can remind them to buy tickets, right? So you can start to segment based on those things. You can also segment your lists, the people that you're sending these emails to, based on how much they've spent at previous events. Hopefully, if you have, especially if you have bidding technology like BidPal, you can see what people's activity has been in events past, and you can start to segment the types of auction items that you're promoting to them based on how much they spend. Your VIP, that top 15%, you're going to want to be promoting those Napa packages, the Paris packages, what have you, the people who maybe haven't spent as much, you can promote some of the silent auction items. The key here is to tailor your messaging to those people based on the information that you've collected about them, so that it's more relevant when it arrives in their inbox, as opposed to blanketing everybody with the same email, which is in the same box as that BCC, which drives me crazy to no end.
No.
You can do better, people. You can do better.
Yeah. Ian, I think you guys have a whole white paper on this, right? Or an ebook. Yeah.
Yes. Thank
Tell
you
us
for
about
this.
it.
This ebook we put together, it's a great resource. You can go here to download it, winspy.re/email-book. We'll also send this out in an email after the webinar, but this is chock full of tips on how to do this, how to segment your email lists, how often you should be sending emails before your event, what the frequency should be, so that you're not being annoying to people. But this is a great resource, so definitely go out and download this.
Fantastic. All right, so we're going to wrap up here. We're going to take another poll. So let me, let's see here.
This is our first time using this webinar platform.
Webinar platform. All right, so the poll here is, which of the following fundraising tools would best help your organization amp up your event marketing and sponsorship? So you can select multiple responses here. So we'll leave this open for a bit here as people are doing that.
That's great. Now's a good time to also enter any questions you have. We have a few kind of rolling in. We'd love to answer your questions during the Q&A session. So if you have any, now's the time to pipe up. Yeah,
fantastic. And while we do that, Ian mentioned it. We just want to remind people that in September 25th to 26th, the Raise event fundraising conference will be taking place. We're really excited about this, and we'd love to see as many of you as possible. Winspire is going to be in attendance, I believe, right, Ian?
Absolutely, yeah. We're going to be there. We're stoked to come out and meet the the rest of the team meet these speakers. Worked with Josh for a while now, so we love collaborating on this stuff. But I know this is going to be just chock full of valuable information. So looking forward to coming out there to the East Coast.
Yeah, and we, and in addition to sort of all the speakers and the sessions, we have a ton of great sessions planned. It's also anyone who has a CFRE, excuse me, accreditation. You can receive up to 4 continuing education credits for Raise. So it's just all around a great opportunity to sort of network, to learn some new tools. And just have a good time in Washington, D.C. for 2 days. So we hope that you'll be able to join us. With that, I think it's time for some questions.
Great.
Take a look at what's coming here. All right. So Diane Hopper, hi Diane. She asked if if you make a fund a need into a game of chance for participants, does that impact whether their donation is deductible? You know, Diane, that is a really great question, and I think with that one, I would encourage you to touch base with your tax advisor and make sure, right, with all of those raffles and games of chance, you're going to want to touch base with your professional advisor for taxes, as well as your legal team, to make sure that you guys are the organization is staying within the lines and not putting yourself at risk. So I would encourage you to sort of touch base with that individual.
And the reason for that too, just so people know, so we're national organizations. We work with nonprofits in every single state, but every single state has their own policies and taxes and things of that nature, and the way that they treat, the games of chance, even like fair market value of items and how much they can deduct, which is why we don't want to make any blanket statements as far as what you should do. That's why we're not tax professionals. We're marketing and sponsorship and event fundraising professionals. So make sure you talk to people who know to how to answer that question.
Yeah, I know, that's great. That's a great point, Ian. The next question here from Dana: how would you approach a sponsor about the bonus match? I think the tactic there is very similar to any sort of sponsorship opportunity, right? You're going to want to sort of reach out to them very much like any other sponsor solicitation, and just provide this as a unique opportunity, right? It will give them an ample amount of stage time above and beyond any other sort of sponsorship benefits that you are offering. So I think it's just sort of positioning what benefits they're going to get. And in this case, the bonus match oftentimes, or all of the fund a need matches that we talked about today, just really amps up their presence and shows their commitment to your cause. All right. Then this next one I'll also take here, which is it's a BidPal specific question, and Laura asks, BidPal, how do you sell a package multiple times? Each package has a separate number, and that is correct, Laura. You can clone packages, right? So there's a way in the back end of BidPal to clone a package, and then you can hide it. It doesn't necessarily have to be shown visible for your guests and bidders. And so when your live auctioneer is selling multiple packages, right, which is I think how you were implying it, correct, or how it's most oftenly used, right, Ian, as multiple packages is usually done in the live auction.
Correct, but it can be done in the silent auction as well. Absolutely, that's one thing that we've seen recently as well. If you can see who was the highest bidder, and if there's 2 or 3 bidders that were actively pursuing a package, you can actually go and approach those second and third place bidders and sell it to the same price to 3 of them as opposed to the top bidder. Just make sure you're selling it at the same price. You're not, selling it at different prices to the second and third place bidders. You want to be, full disclosure there.
Yeah, so fantastic. Yeah, so and then you just clone them in the back end, Laura, and then you can sell each one individually to different bidders there. Margo asks, what is a good number of items to have? And I think that really varies. Our sort of rule of thumb with BidPal, and Ian, I'd be interested to see what you guys advise over at Winspire, is usually you want one item for every 2 to 3 guests on average. I think that's typically, but again, it really depends, right? If you have a history of the event and you've seen that ratio doesn't work, then you're going to want to adjust accordingly.
Absolutely. That's for silent auction, right? So,
correct. Sorry, correct. Yep.
And then for live auction, what we usually recommend is obviously depends on the size of your audience, right? I think in terms of when you start looking at how many auction items, what's more important is how long should the live auction take, and it should never go longer than an hour if you can help it. An hour is a good amount of time to sell a healthy number of items, depending on who the auctioneer is, and they can get through it. But if you go more than an hour, people start to lose interest. But an hour is a good time for people to kind of finish eating their meals and really get onto the fun and need. But so as far as the number of items, we typically recommend between 7 and 12, which means that if you only have 4 or 5 items, live auction items, and again, before I go there, you want to make sure that the items that you put in your live auction are good enough to warrant being put in your live auction. You do not want to be auctioning off $1,000, $1,500 live auction items, because it just doesn't have the same pizzazz. You want to make sure that these auction items are going to go for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 at least in the live auction. So if you only have 4 or 5, that is a great opportunity for you to throw in a couple extra no-risk travel packages, right? To really round out so that you can have at least 7 items, because most auctioneers can easily get through 7 items in an hour. If they're quicker, they can usually do more. But it's more of a time issue than the number of auction items.
Fantastic. Ian, let's sort of take a look at these questions. There's a couple here. I think we probably have time for 1 or 2 more.
I don't mind going over a little bit if there's some good ones. So do you want me to take Ashley's here about the ESP?
Why don't you go ahead and grab Ashley's?
Cool. Ashley asks, I have a question regarding ESP MailChimp. Have you had any experience in how to make sure that these emails do not show up in spam or promotion folders on Gmail when donors, invitees, I don't know if that's right, receive these emails? So what that has to do with is that, so your deliverability is a big thing. And what you want to make sure you're doing is the list that you send these emails to are people that have donated to you before and are expecting correspondence from you. If you're blasting out emails to 5,000 people, anyone who's ever donated to you, even back in 2012, then it's going to bounce. What's going to happen is it's called bouncing. They're going to get a hard bounce. Either that email doesn't exist anymore, people are going to ignore it, people are going to put it in their spam, or it's not going to end up in their inbox. And the less emails that are actually delivered, the less your deliverability is going to, or the more your deliverability is going to be affected. So you want to make sure that the email list that you're sending your emails to are expecting your emails. The more you do that, and these ESPs, email service providers, will start to clean your list. So the more you send, the more it's going to see which ones are actually delivered, and then it's only going to deliver to those who actually it got into their inbox again. And so it'll clean your list over time, but that'll be devalued if you're constantly pouring in new contacts, new email addresses of people who don't necessarily expect to hear from you. So just make sure that you are very conscious of the email addresses that you're putting in and sending out to. The higher quality they are, the better they're going to be delivered, especially over time.
I couldn't have answered that one better myself. So thank you, Ian.
I know you guys do email deliverability over the BidPal too. So
we do. Let's see. Kelly here asks a question around using a professional benefit auctioneer. Where can you find one? Kelly, there's a ton of professional benefit auctioneers throughout the country. BidPal has a whole list of ones that we have partnered with on our website under the partners section of our page. Ian, do you guys have a similar?
We don't have like a page, but we're happy to recommend auctioneers that we've worked with all over the country in all 50 states. You can also go to the BAS. It's under the National Auctioneers Association website. And if you type in benefit auctioneer specialist, that will take you to a page where you can find an accredited benefit auctioneer specialist, someone who's gone through the course, they know what they're doing, and they'll send you a list that's in your area.
Yeah, fantastic. Selena asks, how do you recommend promoting auction items on social media and email? I'm sorry, how early do you recommend promoting auction items on social media and email? And I don't know that there's a hard and fast rule on this. I do think that probably 2 weeks out, 2 to 4 weeks out is probably a good time. But if you have stuff earlier, why not? Why not start promoting it and start building the excitement? You can always repost things. We've seen that as well. So you could repost, something that you sent. If you send it 6 weeks out from the event, then maybe try it again 2 to 3 weeks out, maybe with a slightly different spin, just to increase the engagement there. Ian, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just say that, yeah, I mean, if you started selling tickets and you have auction items that are cool and you want to start promoting them, then go for it, right? It doesn't really make sense to promote the items before you started selling tickets. But once those tickets go on sale, I think it's off to the races.
Yeah, fantastic. Laura here asks a question around board captains, about filling a table, assuming it's free to the captain, yet with the return of investment being the donation coming from the guests, and that is correct, right? So the board captain will probably buy their own ticket to the event, and then the return of investment is all of the guests that they're bringing that are also purchasing tickets, right? So, and then the incentivizing that board captain, highlighting them, maybe listing all of the board captains at your event, thanking them. If you're doing a program book, including that. We've seen some organizations will give a special pin or sort of medallion that board captains or table captains received the night of the event. So giving them just a little bit of acknowledgement and thanking them for their engagement, involvement, and helping to make the event a success.
Let me take that real quick one from Myra.
Yep.
She's asking about, she's a local chapter for nonprofit org. How do we set up a travel trip with no risk to the org? That's super easy. Just go to winspireme.com or Google Winspire. You'll go to the site and just click Get Started or contact us, and we'll get you set up with some trips for your event.
Yeah. And the last question here we have is Chelsea wants to know if this webinar will be available on BidPal, and the answer is yes. We'll be posting a recording of this webinar shortly thereafter. Actually, it'll probably be a couple hours here. It'll be up on the website, and then we'll be sending an email to everyone who's attended this afternoon with a link to directly get to that webinar. But you can also always check out old webinars under the webinar section on the BidPal website. So I think that wraps it up today. Any final thoughts here, Ian?
No, this has been awesome. It's a pleasure. I love, sharing our knowledge, especially you, you over there working at BidPal doing marketing. And I know we're both kind of in marketing, but we work really closely with our nonprofits on helping them promote their events and just be more successful in general. And I just want to thank you for sharing your knowledge. And it's always a pleasure to work with you guys over there at BidPal, and look forward to doing another one of these again in the future.
Yeah, no, and let me just echo that. It is we love, pulling together these webinars, and working with Winspire is always a pleasure. They're the packages, our clients that use Winspire packages in their auctions and events, just see such a great return. And so we love being able to partner with you guys and producing webinars like this. So with that, we'll let everyone get back to their day. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you at Raise in Washington, D.C. at the end of September, but if not, online soon at another upcoming webinar. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thanks, Josh.